I knew that I was alone. If I had to survive, I'll have to do what the Widiku man says. If you want to survive a tiger you have annoyed, you have to climb on that tiger's back, bite its neck, and remain there, and tiger runs with you until it tires out and dies, because there's no way you can jump down. You jump down, you'll be taken up by the tiger.
1,000 miles is a long, long ways away. More than 18 wheels can travel in a day. That means I'm more than a day away from you. I wish there was some place in between that we could go to. 1,000 miles is a long, long way to go. But now I think it could be possible, so I might see you tomorrow. But I sure will.
And I will start by asking you to give us a background to the new social order. What brought about the new social order?
The new social order was the first shot actually in the ongoing Ambazonian liberation struggle. It came about as a result of what happened in 1984. There had been riots in Bamenda and in Ambazonian areas, pro-independent riots. At one time, our young men overran the police station there, disarmed the police and marched them in the streets naked, calling for the independence of their country, calling for us to get out of the Republic of Cameroon. Then there was one decree that decided to abolish the GCE, and there were riots which forced the government to withdraw that. For some time, these things are resentment against the legal occupation of our country by La République de Cameroun.
You mean illegal?
Illegal, yes.
Okay.
The illegal occupation of our country by La République de Cameroon. It has been simmering over the years. Our elders swallowed the outrage upon us, but the young men were no longer prepared to tolerate it. It's just like in South Africa. Centuries, the white man has imposed apartheid there. The elders just accepted it.
Okay.
But it was a younger element. The Mandelas, the Oliver Tambo and the others will say, no, we won't accept it. We must overthrow this. So these are young men were angry about the fact that their country was sovereign and independent. Now, they are being ruled by governors appointed by decree of Yaoundé. So, this rioting kept going on. And, you see, God has a mysterious way of getting one to do his will. Paul Biya and his clique felt that the best way of ending this rioting was to wipe out any trace that there ever were another country other than Cameroon Republic. So they enacted law number 84/01 of the United Republic of Cameroon. That law, the effect of it was not what they intended. They wanted to wipe out the history of Ambazonia.
Okay.
But, as he said, God has a mysterious way. God had decided that this was opportunity to reinvent, to revitalize, to bring back Ambazonia. And he got these people to pass a law thinking that they were wiping it away, only to find out that the black and white of interpreting that law means the United Republic of Cameroon is extinct, and it means the union of the two countries that formed United Republic of Cameroon has been dissolved, and once that union is dissolved, the two countries that formed it become free. And that is why La République de Cameroon, which was no longer existing, came back into force. Ipso jure, automatically, without any need for anybody saying anything, the British Southern Cameroon came back into force with its constitution.
How did the two countries come together, by the way?
The two countries came together by a fraud of the British. I'll tell you how it happened. We got self-government in 1958. Southern Cameroon had self-government. British Southern Cameroon. We had established a modern democracy, parliamentary democracy in our country. And an upper house of traditional rulers called House of Chiefs, an elected House of Assembly, and a government headed by a prime minister. Now, in 1960, Southern Cameroon became independent with the promulgation of the Southern Cameroon Constitution Order in Council. Coincidentally, I'm seeing a copy of it in your place here. This is the Southern Cameroon Constitution Order in Council. It was launched, it came into effect on the 1st of October 1960. The same day, the Nigerian Constitution Order in Council launched Nigeria onto independence. But then the British withdrew from Nigeria, but held tight to British Southern Cameroon.
Okay.
We didn't know why. It's only 30 years after. From the archives, the classified documents that were now declassified, that I found from British archives, that the reason is clearly stated there, that independence for this Southern Cameroon will put Southern Cameroon in a position to build international relationship and diplomatic ties with other countries, including Ghana under Nkrumah and the Soviets. With Nkrumah had set up what the Macmillan called a wind of change, which was blowing through Africa, inciting Africans to get up and to rise against colonialism. Lumumba, Mugabe, Mandela, all these people went to Ghana, got baptism of liberation, and went home and swore to die. Now, Ghana at that time was the home of the UPC, who had been banned from Cameroon. And UPC had been an ally with KNDP, which was the ruling party of Ambazonia at the time of 1960. So there was this rapport built between Ghana and our country, and the British saw it that this was going to be easy for Nkrumah to influence our country to adopt the anti-imperialist stance which Nkrumah had taken up.
Who were the UPCs? What?
UPC was Union de Population de Cameroun. These were francophones. These were people from La République de Cameroun who were fighting to overthrow Ahidjo. In fact, they started fighting for independence of their country You see, there are people who keep saying that UPC wanted unification. If they wanted unification, they wouldn't be talking UPC. It would have been UPK. It's only parties from our side which were talking using K, because most of those parties.
You mean K for Cameroon?
Cameroon, with Cameroon, that is the German, which meant the whole place. Now, these people who were motivating this K were the refugees from French Cameroon who had run away from Jokmasi forced labor and came and settled in our country. Now, these people felt that if the two countries were united, their ancestral homes and their now new adopted homes would be easy for them to go without any barriers. So, in fact, the first political party that was formed in Southern Cameroon was Cameroon United National Congress, CUNK, Conk. And the first president was RJK Dibonge, a Douala man.
And this was in Southern Cameroon?
In Southern Cameroon. A Douala man. That was about 1940-something. Right? So it is these people who created this drive for unification because they want to go home without passing through checkpoints and custom exercise and things like that. Especially when they die, they want to carry the Bamileke man will say, no, make the go bury him for tongue. The man who has been born, educated, worked, and died old in our place, no one for tongue, they go take and go. Now, and they would have to show why they're crossing the border.
Meaning that they wanted to be buried in their
ancestral home. It's a normal thing. The African has a wonderful attachment to ancestral home. People in Bamenda and so on, if you die here today, your people are going to want to take you back to Bafut. For no other reason, because there's where your spirit belongs, your body belongs with the ancestral gods. It's a normal thing. So, people are usually blaming these Francophones, and when they're blaming Francophones, I think they are stupid. It's a normal sentiment that they want their new homes, which they have now created in our country, to have no barrier between them and their ancestral homes. Some of them don't even know their villages at all. They don't even know where to go. But it is inside the psyche that they come from somewhere. Just like the Jew here believes that he comes from Israel. It's absolutely normal. The unfortunate thing is that when we are talking about bringing things to normality, they look at it as a matter of that it's creating, for them, the unity between our country and their ancestral home must be that of Jonas and the whale. They must swallow us. We say no. We created this unity of two sovereign states interacting freely with the other. And that is what the treaty of what we call the Plebiscite Pact meant. That was signed on 16th of December 1960 between the government of Buea and the government of Yaoundé, proposing that these two countries would form a confederacy, if you like, you may call it Cameroon Ambazonian Confederacy of Independent Nations. We call it the CACIN, CACIN. Right. That thing was signed, and it set up, all it said was, just like the European Union, they are independent states, but they pursue common policies in certain areas. So it was decided that these two countries, Cameroon and Ambazonia, will pursue common policies in 8 matters. They named the 8 matters there: defense, foreign affairs, human rights, immigration, nationality, post and telecommunication. I think the other one is higher education, and the 8th was federal budget. So each one retains its army, you retain your air force, you retain your navy, you have your customs and excise, you have your currency. Just like in Europe, everyone has his currency. Britain has a different currency. They are now, the European people have now invented the euro, but Britain has a different currency. There are other countries inside Europe, in the European Union, who persist in keeping their currencies, but they have a parity with the euro.
Even the euro, they have to agree that they should come to that currency.
Exactly. So, this was adopted. We call it plebiscite pact because it was submitted to a UN plebiscite. The UN accepted this as the second alternative to the plebiscite which they were going to conduct.
And what was the other alternative?
The other alternative was total absorption to become part of Nigeria. If we voted to join Nigeria, total absorption. And I think last time I was here, I hope I still have it here. We have the. You have the two alternatives. Puts everything out very, very clearly. Two alternatives. Here we are. This is the two alternatives. This is the two alternatives. Now, look at what we were to lose if we went to Nigeria. Look at what we were to lose if we went to Nigeria. If we join Nigeria, all these things here were to be under the exclusive competence of the federal government. This lot, currency, aviation, I pick only a few, external trade, immigration, all these were going to be under the federal government. In addition, these others here, these ones, they were going to be under concurrent jurisdiction. We could legislate on this, federal government will legislate on this, but if there was a conflict between our legislation and federal government legislation would prevail. So in effect, we had nothing to our exclusive jurisdiction.
If we became part of Nigeria.
If we became part of Nigeria, except primary education, cooperatives, agriculture, that was all we had as veterinary and health. That was the only thing we had as exclusive jurisdiction.
So basically we were going to become an integral part of Nigeria.
Integral part of Nigeria, totally absorbed, and the nationality, whatever nationality we have, out of the way. We become Nigerian.
And any autonomy is gone.
No such thing. As the autonomy we had was only for primary education and, as I indicated to you, health, primary education, veterinary, and so that's the only autonomy we would have.
And that will only be at a local level because finally the federal government controls the health of the whole place.
Whether it controls the health, but that was the only place where we could make legislation without anybody interfering with us. Those are about 4.
So in
now,
effect,
compare that with the plebiscite pact between us and La République de Cameroon. There were 8 matters here, only, which were for federal and regional and state competence, concurrent jurisdiction. There is nothing here that says that federal government has any exclusive jurisdiction at all. On the contrary, it is clearly stated that in non-federal matters, the states preserve exclusive competence. Is written there, which means that outside these 8, the federal authority have no hand, no role to play in whatever we do, whatever La République de Cameroon does. But in these 8 matters, the laws Yaoundé passes, the laws Buea passes, are subject to modification, harmonization, so that, for example, immigration should be harmonized, human rights should be harmonized, legislation on nationality should be harmonized. Those are the things. Post and telecommunication legislation should be harmonized. That is the meaning of what we voted. Now, so it was submitted to the United Nations adopted this and made it the second alternative in the plebiscite. The plebiscite came, and to tell you the truth, the British saw this was a fantastic coup d'etat staged by Foncha over the heads of the British. Because now there is something we can relate to as the terms of joining La République de Cameroon. There has been all this wild lie peddled by La République de Cameroon that we voted to become part of La République de Cameroon. What you have seen now tells you that it was a gigantic lie, and it continues to be a gigantic lie. So let me show you I hope I can find it. Yes. This is exactly the organic setup, with the structure which we voted for in the plebiscite. 2 countries, each independent, and a federal confederacy. We call it confederacy because whether you call it federal or not, a confederacy is a league of independent nations. 2 independent nations confederated to pursue common policies in these 8 matters. So when somebody tells me that we voted, Ambazonia voted to become part of the République de Cameroon, tell that person he is suffering from intellectual dishonesty of the deepest dye.
I mean, how many people are aware of this document?
I was never even aware of it till 1990. I didn't know there was anything like this. I didn't know there was even this. I stumbled across this only the United Nations in 1990. By that time, we had written the new social order. So the new social order was even basing itself on the fact that there was a Fumban agreement, whereas in fact there was no Fumban agreement. I thought that Fumban agreement was what created the union, the terms of union. Little did I know that the terms of union and the procedure for bringing about the union were part of what we voted for in the plebiscite.
Why has this document not been available, though? Why? I mean, this is what the people voted for. Obviously, it was made available during the campaign.
It was. In fact, that's what I'm asking some of my friends who were in that campaign, like Albert Mukong. I said, but how come? I asked him, did you people use this? He said, yes. Did you see what we had, we were supposed to give up to these people? He said, yes. And do you realize that it was stated there, after the vote, there will be an international conference chaired by the United Nations. The British will be there. We and La République de Cameroon will be there to work out a constitution. Have they had any such thing? No. So, from day one, this whole thing was abrogated immediately it was voted. And to tell you the truth, before this took place, I was in London studying law. The British had recruited hundreds of young men to go to Ambazonia as what they call enlightenment officers. They were to campaign and make sure our people vote for merger into Nigeria. Because what Foncha had brought, which United Nations had adopted, meant if we voted for it, we would still be independent, and the British didn't want to see us independent because of our relationship with Ghana. Because that was going to make us nationalize the CDC, where they had invested 20 million. That is what I found in their archives. I didn't understand why the British were against our independence. That if we became independent, Nkrumah and the Soviets will influence us to nationalize the CDC with their 20 million vested in it. Another problem they had was this. If we became independent, the UPC, who had been chased away from La République de Cameroon, will use us as a staging point for carrying out the anti-French guerrilla war, which was raging in La République de Cameroon at the time. And since the UPC was it was more or less an ally of Foncha's government, that would easily become a communist country there. In the British document which say we now find ourselves with a small communist country just next to Nigeria, and it will have a terrible influence in Nigeria. Turning Nigeria into a communist state is going to be disastrous for the West. So the prevention of our independence became a must. So when they brought these so-called Enlightenment officers to Cameroon, they went around. They found that the campaign to vote against, to vote for against joining Nigeria was so strong that their strategy was, after the vote, they will carry the boxes and rig. But one Bakweri princess, Minerva Martin, the daughter of King Manga Williams, that was a firebrand. She was the heroine of our salvation, because she stormed the country from Limbe right through to Nkambe, woke up our women and told them that after the vote, no woman who is pregnant goes home. You stay here and surround these voting boxes to make sure that nobody touches them. Light a campfire. If anybody comes to touch it, take fire and burn the person. And these women acted like one man. The British tried to carry these boxes away. These women say, you are dead. Try it. Who will fight pregnant women with fire? It's not part of the type of thing the British would do.
And not after the Second World War.
Eh?
Yes.
Yes. It's not the type of thing the British would do. I mean, there's some element of politics among the British. They wouldn't be that brutal, go and beat women and so on. So they found that, no, this is a no-go area. We are going to let these people alone. So the votes were counted, and it was a massive vote against joining Nigeria and retaining our independence. But Britain is so astute in the way they do their things. From the archives, I found that the British archives state that from now on, we shall pursue a policy which maximizes the United Nations role as a cover for our United Kingdom government strategy, but without permitting the United Nations to have any direct contact with our country.
With Ambazonia.
With Ambazonia. This was in black and white. So they got the United Nations to say, well, go and implement what the people have voted for, give it to them. Yes, we will do it. That's what the British said. But what did they do? Implementing that means this problem. They decided now to block implementation. How do you block implementation of that thing? They organized for the Franco-Cameroon Alliance troops based in Cameroon to march, to invade our country.
Based in La Republique.
In La République de Cameroon. To march into our country, Ambazonia, and got British troops to hand over our country to them, to subjugate, to annex it and subjugate it under La République de Cameroon.
What did the government of Southern Cameroon say?
The government of Southern Cameroon, they found nowhere as to what they could say. First, Foncha himself, as I now got to know, was a Francophone refugee settled in our country. That apart, the leadership we had at the time, I can only say God had destined that we have to go into this slavery. Because it was in 1995 that Foncha, Muna, and the others carried a group of people to junket Britain and United Nations that they are looking for our independence. If Foncha had gone to the United Nations in 1961 and said, look, this is what we voted for, these people have occupied our country, what is happening? The United Nations would have told Cameroon to get out. You either comply to what is signed there as a method of bringing the two countries together, or you get out. And they would have pushed them out. But Foncha acquiesced. In fact, Foncha he was like our commander-in-chief. He was the one to organize our resistance. But what did he do? He defected. Our commander-in-chief defected and became the deputy commander-in-chief as vice president of Ahijo, deputy commander-in-chief of the forces which were illegally occupying our country. He was operating like Philippe Pétain, Marshal Pétain in Paris, who, when the Nazis took France, he, instead of leading the resistance against the Nazis, he became their man to rule France for them. I think you understand. Now, so the pattern is looking here exactly like the situation in which we are. It was a French refugee, Charles de Gaulle, who was in London, who then now proclaimed himself the president of Free France. And the international community recognized him. They were signing, all the alliance were signed between de Gaulle, the United States, and these people. It is de Gaulle's signature that now committed France. And I need to stress this because there are some people who say, in a revolution where you want to, you must go and have democratic election as to who should be the president of that country. Who made de Gaulle the president?
And that question, that is coming because of your declaration of being the president of Amazonia.
When you see that, it is coming from Paul Biya's agents. It is coming from Paul Biya's agents. What about de Gaulle? How about Kabila? Who has elected Kabila? But he is there. The Western powers have recognized him. This is a revolution. When you see those people asking who has made him so and so, those are people talking the master's voice, Paul Biya's voice, and usually our people. Not one francophone has ever challenged that, because they know in a revolution there has to be a human head of a country which has a government in exile. Now, so that was a diversion, but it was to bring about some of this rubbish where these saboteurs who are within us, these agents, agents provocateurs whom Paul Biya has paid to come and harass this movement, but they're failing every inch of the way because none of them has produced anything better.
I want us to go, I'm going to take you back one step. Now,
you were telling me about you asked me to tell how we came to this 1984.
1984.
Yes.
And you went back and you explained about the two alternatives and all that. But I want to take you back just one step before we come back and explain 1984.
All right.
Now, the UN trusteeship agreement does not call on a plebiscite.
Mm-hmm.
How did the people of Southern Cameroon suddenly find themselves with a plebiscite? They really shouldn't have been a plebiscite.
Well, this was one of some of the maneuvers which the British were using. If there was no plebiscite, they wouldn't have been. They would not have had opportunity to try to force us to get into Nigeria. They created the same situation in Togo, British Togoland. The trusteeship agreement says you lead the people to self-government or independence. But of course, there's a place there according to the wishes of the people. Now, that is a clash. They say they must get the people to demonstrate their wish. So, they ask United Nations, come and ask what is the wishes of the people. And our own, we provoked it ourselves. Because Dr. Ndeli, who led us out of Nigeria to come and create our own country, was tuned by his wife, who was a Nigerian, to make a U-turn and say, no, we should get back to Nigeria. This is the influence of a wife. Ndeli now was there now against our continued existence without Nigeria. And yet he is the one who organized to break us out of Nigeria. So this conflict as to where we should be became an issue, and the British cashed on it. There are people who want to go back to Nigeria, and the others who say they want to be independent. But then they invented, in 1958, their statement to the United Nations was that Southern Cameroon was ripe for independence. And because it is being ruled from Nigeria, there will have to be they have to make the people decide whether they wanted this independence with Nigeria or away from Nigeria. This was a document sent by the British in June 1958. But once they saw that in 1959 there was a special session of the United Nations for Cameroon, I led the student delegation from London. My other delegate was Professor Nomangu. And there, the African bloc succeeded in getting Ndeli and Foncha to sign a document saying, because the British had insisted that there should be two plebiscites, one to ask us whether we wanted to leave Nigeria or not. And if we agree that we're going to leave Nigeria, then another plebiscite, whether we want to be unified with the Republic of Cameroon or to stay by ourselves or to join Nigeria. Can you imagine? All that was to make sure that they churn us until somewhere they have a small majority for joining Nigeria. Now, but this woman stole a match, Mrs. Angie Brooks of Liberia. She was the chairperson of the African bloc. They got these two people to sign that there's no need conducting a plebiscite about whether we should leave Nigeria or not. We have declared today that we have left Nigeria. You see what unity can bring? Once these signatures of Foncha and the leader of opposition were on the table at the UN cancelled everything the British were saying about an election as to whether you're coming out of Nigeria or not. If they had signed another one, that there is no need for a plebiscite to go to Nigeria or the Republic of Cameroon, we would have got our independence. Foncha was asked, when is it you want trusteeship to be terminated? That is to say, when do you want independence? Foncha said, oh, we want the British to stay on for a short time. That is what brought a clash between the Students' Union and Foncha. They asked him, how short? How many days? How many weeks? How many months? How many years? Oh, a short time. What short time? What are you talking about, short time? The African bloc that linked up with the Arab bloc and the others, they were so ashamed that this was an African leader who comes and insists on perpetuating colonialism. This was the biggest disgrace we ever had internationally, insisting that colonialism should continue, whereas the UN was out to decolonize Africa. So this is the type of leadership we've had from day one, especially headed by Foncha. So when this thing took place, as you were asking, why did they not do something about it? Best thing is to ask the man, but he's dead now. Why didn't you go to United Nations and say, what have you done? You asked us to vote for one thing, and you allow another country to come and occupy us. They didn't. So that is why we went there. And that's why we stayed there till the only time anybody ever tried to do anything about it was Augustin Ngomjua.
What did he do?
Ngomjua became prime minister. That was the first indigenous Ambazonian to become prime minister. John Ngomjua was proud native of Ambazonia. He hated this idea of us being ruled from anywhere other than from ourselves. And when he became prime minister, he set about organizing our breaking away. He appointed Nanga to import arms, gave Nanga contracts, spend the profit in bringing in arms. He appointed one Peter Ndifo as they want to organize whatever was going to be, because we had what they call mobile wing. That was our police. That, in fact, that was an army. It was trained by Colonel Valentine, British, a crack force. So, the information leaked. Information leaked through, and then Peter Defoe was arrested by Captain Mbu. Yes, Bob Mbu, and being prosecuted for subversive or planning whatever they said it was. But there was no trace of evidence, and the military tribunal acquitted Peter Defoe. But Mbu, that is typical of us. If you see an Anglophone being dug into his grave alive, there is an Anglophone behind it. Mbu went to Yaoundé and got permission to come and rearrest Peter Defoe and just lock him up. So when that information got to Bia, to Joa summoned a war council, called the executive council. They sat and they decided that they are going to resist the arrest of Peter Defoe. So he summoned Michael Ntuni, who was the commissioner of police in Ambazonia. Ntuni came to the executive council, dressed in full uniform. In a very solemn manner, Ngomjua told him, Michael Ntuni, commissioner of police for West Cameroon, you shall resist the arrest of Peter Defoe to the last drop of West Cameroon blood. Have you heard me? He said, yes, out. This man greeted and went out. I told him to bring Peter Defoe to come and live with him inside the Prime Minister's lodge. So Peter Defoe was moved from his house to Prime Minister's lodge. Ntuni prepared our boys, the mobile wing. On the day the gendarmes moved from Sopo to go for Peter Defoe, they had not gone 50 yards when they were outflanked by the mobile wing, and they broke in wild disorder and escaped and went back to their barracks. That is when Ahijo vowed that he must cross this West Cameroon. That mobile wing is an army by itself. So he made sure he removed Joa from power because he had the right to appoint and dismiss prime ministers. He appointed Muna to replace Joa. And within 2 weeks of Muna taking power, he signed an order surrendering the police to the federal. And whatever force we had was gone. So that was the first attempt by anybody to try to recover our liberty. From that time until 1985, nobody dared cough. So in 1985...
Mbe, I'm going to stop you before we go to 1985. One more thing I wanted to address. There was a meeting in Manfe. I've heard you speak many times, but you've never really addressed that meeting. There was a meeting that was held in Manfe. And in that meeting, the people of Southern Cameroon did definitely make it clear to the British that they did not want to be part of Nigeria or part of La Republique. Can you discuss that Manfe meeting?
I don't know about that one.
There was a Manfe conference.
Yes, don't forget that. What I am saying, these are things I did from my research because I was a student in London. What was happening back home, I didn't know. I was reading law in London. Came back home only in 1964. So I don't know about that conference.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the conference in which Achirimbi of Bafut said Nigeria is water and La Republique is fire.
Fire.
Yes.
It could be that, but that is not as important as the fact that they signed this the
plebiscite.
This plebiscite treaty.
Okay.
And Britain, it went through an international process which confirmed that we're to remain independent. What Achirimbi said, the other said, was neither here nor there. But once it became a legal document like this, that's where we stand.
Okay. Let's go to 1985.
Now, in 1985, 1985, as I said, these disruptions got Paul Biya and the others to pass what we call the Restoration Law. It restored La République de Cameroon. And I waited for our people to say, let's sing home again, when shall I see my home? To go back to Buea and re-establish our institution. Of course, nobody did, because at that time, I don't think anybody else saw what had happened. But for some reason, God showed me this: your country is free. Let your people know it is free. So, we had a group which was working to see how we could revive this country, the Ambazonian Restoration Council. Fonlon was our leader. So we sat down to put up a document that this CNU Congress in Bamenda, we should stage a coup right inside there, transform that Congress into a constitutional conference to bring back legality, because we have been illegal from 1st of October till today. Illegality from beginning to the end, lawlessness from beginning to the end, lies and falsehood. That's all that is there.
Now, let me before you come. So from 1961 to 1972 were federal.
Yes.
From 1972 to 84 were United Republic.
United Republic of Cameroon.
Was that legal to you?
Absolutely legal from day one.
Okay.
But since now I cannot say it in hindsight that it was illegal. But I had thought the 1961 arrangement was something which came out of Fumban. So when I went, 72 came, and they wiped it away, I read through the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Cameroon. Article 47 or 41 says how it can be modified. That federal constitution can only be modified by a majority vote of both countries, both states. Here, they just got up one morning and say, there's a plebiscite. The plebiscite is to transform the country from Federal Republic to United Republic.
You mean referendum?
I mean referendum, sorry. Referendum. Thank you for that. So, for me, that was not the way to revise that constitution. And that is where we based the new social order. It has been changed by a system which was outside that which is provided in the constitution. Therefore, it was unconstitutional. All right? But who cared? They had created the United Republic of Cameroon. And people went out, we. But it was rigged. Our people voted against it. A typical example is that in Bambili, CAS, there were two votes. One black, which says no. The other one white, which says yes. Yes. When they came to collect the vote from that area, it was all black votes. The white ones were all on the floor there. Yet the result from Bambili was 100% in favor. That is showing how they rigged it. The results from Bambili said the people had voted 100%. The students started rioting. Say we voted. Even the white votes. The white votes are still on the floor here. Who was listening to them? They had rigged their thing. So that was another perpetuation of illegality. So when the United Republic of Cameroon was abolished, that means the union was dissolved. Regardless of what Paul Biya had in his head, God had used him to dissolve this union without doing it. You know, there's a biblical saying that to them whom who will not accept the truth and be saved, God shall send into them a strong delusion to believe a lie and be condemned and be damned. You see, they refused to accept the truth that these are two countries. And God told them, oh yes, gave them a delusion, wipe the whole thing off. And they went to wipe it off, only to make it even, to recreate it. So the ARC, Ambazonian Restoration Council, decided to cash in on this. We prepared this new social order to point out that the Republic of Cameroon, having been revived, our British Southern Cameroon automatically is revived the same minute, the same second. Therefore, please limit the authority of the Republic of Cameroon to its territorial boundaries, which are east of the Mongo. And let us run our lives. They didn't arrest me. We took it. We're going to do it. We're going to launch it in the Bamenda Congress. Unfortunately, we are suspected that they wouldn't let me go in because of the way it was very legalistic. Fondon said, no, let's be realistic. Much as I don't mind being the leader, this is a constitutional and legal fight. The person we should put forward as our leader should be a lawyer to carry out these things so that anywhere they ask him to explain, he can explain without having to do a reference. So, Dinka, you be our leader. That is how I came to be the spearhead of this. And that's why my signature appears on that thing. All right. So, but I had my own hunch that I would never be allowed in there. However, we prepared it so that Fondon can read it. And other people will pick it up from there. So before the Congress met on the 21st of March 1985, we met and Fondon told me, please distribute this thing to the Anglophones. I distributed it to MPs and so on. And they saw the thing, said, that is it. And had consulted with our military. I had gone to Semenge, gone to Ngangso, consulted with all these people. So we are walking into an explosion. If we don't do these things now and sort it out, it's going to come upon us like mad. And all of them were agreed. When I was in my house in Bamenda, Semenge sent Anago there to come and collect about 10 copies. They were in Bamenda during the Congress.
Semenge is the
chief of the armed forces.
The commander of the army.
Yes, of the army. So, there was nothing anybody saw wrong about trying to get back to legality. This is all we were asking for, get back to legality. So, when Fondon refused to read that thing, Fondon was the first person to speak after Bia. And after Bia had spoken, there was an adjournment. People went for lunch. And when they came back, the first person to talk was Fondon. That was the first time television came to Cameroon. And we were able to figure out what was happening. Fondon got up, instead of reading the new social order, and people had picked, Anglophones had got their copies, they were waiting. What did he do? He went out on a litany of praise for Bia. Until it came to a point where he felt so ashamed that he decided to talk now in Latin. Knowing that Paul Bia will hear him, nobody else will hear him because Paul Bia is an ex-seminarian. So, this was the first sabotage of the Amazonian Restoration Council. Thereafter, I knew that I was alone. If I had to survive, I'll have to do what the Widikum man says, If you want to survive a tiger you have annoyed, you have to climb on that tiger's back, bite its neck, and remain there, and tiger runs with you until it tires out and dies, because there's no way you can jump down. You jump down, you'll be taken up by the tiger. So I now prepared the defuse the time bomb. I prepared the defuse the time bomb. It had two purposes. One purpose was to divide the armed forces and the gendarmes between Anglophones and Francophones. I told the Anglophones there's going to be a problem, and they will ask to shoot their brothers. And they will find it difficult to shoot their brothers. They're going to turn around and shoot their colleagues in armed force in the uniform. The best thing is this thing be done quietly now. We get back to legality. Now I phoned Semenge. Say, look, please, I have a document for the Etat Major, but I wouldn't want to deliver it to you except in the presence of the Etat Major.
What's the Etat Major?
That is the chiefs of staff, chiefs of army staff. Because if I give it to you, or you take it to them, they will say you and I worked it out together. They are always looking for how to accuse somebody and getting out of his job in order to take the rivalry between them. So please convene your Etat Major, and I will come there and deliver this document there. If you would like me to sit down there and explain it to you, I will explain it. But if you don't want, but let it be delivered there and then. Semenge told me he was going to London with the president. When he comes back, he will let me know. I said, all right. I myself had planned to go to London to see my son there. So I went to London. He too went to London. When I came back from London, we held a little meeting in Dr. Youngbang's place to plan how we are going to react to this defuse the time bomb. Little did I realize that the copy I left with Youngbang was now in the hands of the authorities.
He gave it to them?
Well, it was in his hands, but it's now in the hands of the authorities. I cannot say how it got there. It could only be from him. So we held a meeting. A few of us were in a meeting. I can't remember the people in the meeting, but some of them are back home. I have no need to mention them. People like Feko. Feko is been arrested and locked up so many times, so I don't mind mentioning his name. There was Professor Ngo, but he's now dead. Lawyer Atut. So we held a meeting there about what we were supposed to do to bring about this thing. We're still having a brainstorming, so which is the best way to get our country free. I left, went to Bamenda, and the following day I was arrested. And they searched. The miracle of it was that the bulk of this defuse the time bomb were inside my room, on my bed. When these people came to search me, Dennis Nukuna was one who led the gang. And there were 2 trucks full of helmeted police armed. I said, what is happening? He said, they will come to search you. I said, search for what? He said, we have to search you for some things we need. We're finding from you. I said, all right. Where do you want to search? They went straight into my bedroom. There were other people searching every place there, but they had to search when I was there. I searched them myself. I said, if you only tell me what you want, I will give it to you. They said, no, we'll find it ourselves. They went through, they carried all types of books. For example, they saw this one, the Reich and the fall of the Third Reich. They carried it. Things which had no relevance to what they were looking for. And they left without seeing the things that were piled up there. I don't know how they didn't see it, but it's God who just blinded them. One of them who sat next to the bed, I thought he was going to see. In fact, I didn't know that what they were looking for. I thought they had seen it. And they were not interested in it because that's not what they were looking for. It was later on when I was being prosecuted that I was being queried over that document. I remember I was asked, who wrote this? I said, you see the signature there? I said, yes. I said, that's my signature.
Who wrote this, meaning that address to the time major? Was it a...
It was, yes, to the time major.
Okay.
Defuse the time bomb.
Okay.
Who wrote this? I said, it was me. And you can see my signature. See the other one, the same signature. To whom did you give? I said, seriously speaking, I had not yet distributed it. But now that it has been distributed, that is a work of God, and I assume responsibility for its distribution. The Anglophones on the panel were so furious. Why should you accept that you publicize this thing, whereas in fact, they knew that they didn't get a copy from me? Why should you accept that you publicize this thing? You know what can happen to you. I say, nothing is going to happen to me which has not been preordained by God. Zero. These fellows were frightened. So, that's when I realized this defuse the time bomb was the problem. Then I told my driver, I said, all right, go and carry the other ones which are in the house and keep them safe for me somewhere. Because they couldn't find it. There was no need in my going to go, because I was being prosecuted for it anyway. So there's no problem. So that is what happened. And then when I was in prison, in that jail, I decided to